Yo guys, welcome to The Last Lap. Don't forget to drop a lovely, juicy 5-star rating if you're watching on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Hope you enjoy, and let's get into it. I did mention Ego earlier, but it's kind of I get it as well because it's almost a little bit too late now. There's that element of they have gone down such a radical route that is so different to Red Bull, to even Ferrari and obviously Aston Martin as well, that if they were to go next season, look, we hold our hands up here, we've made a mistake, we'll just go to their model. They've now got 2 years of catching up to do in terms of development on that model and learning that they've missed out on because they've been trying to no side pod set in.
It looks bad, Niran. It does look bad if you're Toto Wolff and you go into the annual board meeting as chair or a non-exec and you're like, oh, we're going to do what Red Bull are doing. But you know what this reminds me of? I was talking to my boy Nash the other day. You know, people say, if you hire Johnny Cochran, then you look guilty. If you hire Johnny Cochran, you look guilty. But how about we look guilty, free, roaming around, walking? Sack off the perception here. It's not that. The side pods, in an era where there are no barge boards, and it's mission critical to manage the wake off of the front tyre. You need side pods. Side pods are obviously the floor's fundamental in that as well, but the side pods are really, really important. Hence why between last season and this, you see Red Bull extending the width of their side pods, similar to Aston Martin. And that's why they're not experiencing instability at the rear mid-apex. And we, as Mercedes are, because they've got this technical arrogance and they're pursuing this bloody design philosophy that hasn't worked for the past 12 months. So what are we doing?
You're not seeing you don't see any progress, any success with the way it currently is, because I kind of admire the fact that Mercedes have gone a different route and said, you know what, let's try and be innovative in another way and not have to do this catching up process. Because now, of course, you know, if you're 2 years behind, and good luck. And let's be honest, when regulations do change, there's usually one team that hits it hard and then they kind of dominate Formula One for as long as those regulations last. Do you not see Mercedes then at all winning a championship, at least the constructors, with their own way of thinking, as opposed to maybe having to try and adapt to whatever Red Bull, Aston Martin are doing? Because Ferrari they're a bit different, aren't they, from the teams we've mentioned? So, and they've got their pluses and their minuses, but it's their own thing. So you just don't, you're not a believer.
Doesn't work, Peter.
Bottom line.
Zero pod doesn't work. No, genuinely though, mechanically, aerodynamically, doesn't the thesis doesn't stack up. Hence why you see the 9 other teams on the grid going a different way. Surely at some point, I get what you're saying, Peter. You want to be a pioneer as Mercedes, right? You don't want to follow fashion and do what the rest of are doing, not just because, not for follow fashion's sake, but it works. It works. To Toto Wolff's point, the stopwatch doesn't lie, except for Abu Dhabi 21. It hasn't lied since. It hasn't lied since, true or false?
Sure.
So in March of 2023, the stopwatch isn't lying. So what are you going to do? Change your design philosophy. Change your effing car, to Christian Horner's words in Change your car.
He was very right.
Change your car. He was very right then, and he's very right now. Change your design philosophy. And thank God, March of 2023, sounds like Toto's finally coalesced and said, we're going to change the philosophy because this is a SH1T box. No, eventually. That was the line that they took in the first instance. Eventually it will come round and we'll break it.
Give it some years. And
2 days later, he's completely changed tact. 180. Eventually this car isn't going to work, and so we're going to change it. Thank all of the racing gods.
And the PR teams understood that as well. A statement from them. They're sort of apologising basically for how Bahrain went, which I find crazy, to be fair. That I understand, having to come out and say, look, listen, this isn't what we expected and whatever. But I mean, Ferrari have been giving us this shit for years.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? And they haven't come out and apologised for it on Twitter.
Fair. but they're in a very different position, aren't they, Niran? Because it's not, their car is fast, but it's just a tyre eater. So I feel like the Tifosi have less to be despondent about than Mercedes, and that's why the PR guys had to come out and say, it's been 12 months now and nothing's changed. Peter, to your point, very quickly about improvement, define improvement for me, mate. Because a lot of my Mercedes fan mates are saying, well, listen, we are faster than we were last year. Ball feathers, what's that got to do with the price of bread, lads? What we're concerned about here, what I'm concerned about as a Lewis Hamilton fan, is him winning the 8th championship. So all I care about is the delta between us, Lewis, and whoever's top. Who's at the top of the timesheet and what's the delta saying? And the truth is, if that's the metric that we need to look at, the truth is that we are further behind Red Bull than we were last season. You only need to look at the super times. 0.3 in qualifying versus Red Bull. It's gone bigger.
I'll tell you what, in terms of the main goal, obviously, here being Lewis Hamilton's 8th world title, for the sake of argument, Mercedes finished 4th in the constructors at the end of the season. Aston Martin continue the pace they've got right now. Ferrari a comfortable 2nd. Red Bull say win the constructors championship. You're Lewis Hamilton, both of you. What do you do at the end of the season? Do you go somewhere else? Do you think about leaving Mercedes? Do you stick with the eventual 0.75 side pods we'll get next season?
Man, that's a tough.
Or do you release an EP? There's a lot of.
I'm still waiting for this mixtape of Lewis Hamilton's. By the way, I'm still waiting.
By the way,
I'm still waiting.
2027 soon come.
What do you do if you're Lewis? I think he firms it because who can he go to where he can trust that, you know what, this is going to be better for me to get this 8th title. Let's say, for example, I don't know, Alonso decides to leave or whatever. Aston Martin looks sort of appetizing now. But I think Mercedes haven't won 8 Constructors' Championships by luck. They know what they are doing. They do know what they are doing. And we cannot, yes, it's been a horrible 12 months and it could be a horrible 24, but it doesn't discredit all the other hard work they've done. Fair enough, they're different eras, but I think Lewis sticks it out one more year. And I'll be honest, he gets an 8th title before he retires with Mercedes. Let's be very clear. Let's be very bold. It's not even bold, is it? It's not even bold, is it?
How, Sway? But the 8th title, how are you expecting Mercedes to come on that much in 12 months?
But I think within the next 2, at least, let's say if Lewis is here for 2 years, for 2 more years, I think he wins his 8th title by then.
Wow. Here's hoping, bruv. I would love to share in your optimism, but...
And don't get me wrong, I have no real affinity with Mercedes whatsoever, except that you provide us with an engine, us being McLaren, right? But and Lewis left us, by the way, so I still haven't...
Wouldn't have that person.
I mean, I'm just saying, innit? Yeah. When he was sending them digs in that when he talked about post Bahrain and he was talking about, look, I've been here before, I've had cars like this before. I'm sitting there like, oh really, Lewis?
Have you? Yeah,
just after I left you alone, Sir Lewis. Yeah, I left you alone, didn't I? But anyway, no, I love him to bits. But nonetheless, I do think that Mercedes will sort this mess out, and who knows, it could just be a 200k salary, job that somebody comes in and it absolutely cleans this mess up. Because I don't think the problems are far for Mercedes. It's just, will they let their pride get the best of them? Is really the question.
Mate, I don't know, bruv. I'm on it. So as far as Lewis is concerned, there's a couple of things working in Mercedes' favour, right? Being the fact that Lewis is 38 years old and he's now focused on more than just winning a race and 25 points. This is all about legacy for him. The Hamilton Commission, Project 44, all of this stuff, diversity, inclusion. After George Floyd's death, you can see his shift isn't just... I mean, he's getting old now, right? I'm not saying he's going to retire imminently, but he's got to consider what he's going to do after steering an F1 car, surely. Yeah. And in that sense, I think Mercedes' brilliance in managing and working with Sir Lewis Hamilton is in the fact that they've allowed this facet of Lewis's interest to blossom. I was just listening to him talking to Toto. Tommy Hilfiger deal, that deal would never have happened were he still at your mate's McLaren. With Ron just suffocating him. Absolutely. Get your trim this way, no facial hair.
Yeah.
He's at Mercedes now.
Zero trim.
Oh, mate.
Negative trim back.
No trim.
1,000%. It was crazy.
McLaren was suffocating, man. McLaren was suffocating. If he were still at McLaren and Ron Dennis were his charge, post George Floyd, he couldn't talk about this.
No.
Ron Dennis isn't having that. No. And so Mercedes in allowing Lewis to spread his wings as a social justice guy and a person, a human being that has interests outside of overtaking Max Verstappen in 25 points. Yeah. I think that's the reason why he will stick at it. Still we rise, right? Never give up each and every single time. I don't think he's going anywhere.
Facts. I just want to see him at Aston Martin with Fernando Alonso.
Oh, my.
One last dance.
Oh, with Alonso?
Lance Stroll gets demoted at the family Christmas dinner.
Chaos, mate.
But you know what is telling though? You know how they were sort of like buddies post-race when Alonso and Hamilton had that little interchange and they were sort of smiling, hugging each other.
Yeah.
It's that sign. You remember Wenger and Sir Alex? They had beef, right?
Yeah.
And then once Wenger wasn't a threat to Sir Alex, they started becoming pally.
Yeah. They went out for dinner.
I literally looked at that and I thought, holy smokes, is there something I'm clocking here? Why is he smiling? Lewis should not be smiling with this Don. Right? Listen, I love Alonso. I got time for both of them. But to see that interchange made me think, like, maybe it is just respect, you know, it's just, you know, man-to-man respect outside of thing, whatever. And it's so many years. But a part of me felt like, if Alonso is capable, even comfortable enough to even do that, and Lewis is also just like kind of taking it, like they're sharing, mics and whatever, I'm thinking, oh, this is a worry. If you're Mercedes, you could look at that and think, we're not challenging even Aston Martin anytime soon. That's a worry.
Oh,
that would be the worry.
Because Lewis is being pally with Alonso.
Yeah, they're both pally with each other.
So I think, mate, you got to give some, I think you touched on it earlier, Peter, you got to give some credence to them just maturing and getting older, right? It's not 2007 anymore.
Sure.
You're not dealing with Alonso pulling up at Hungary and not and not
forgetting to drive.
Yeah.
Pulling my hair out that season.
Oh, mate, what a season, by the way. But I just think they're in a different position. Lewis is out there taking these Donnies for like full course meals and paying for the entire bill. So I think he's in a different place, and we just want to be cognizant of that. Don't expect, it's not 2007 anymore. So don't expect Lewis to move like he's 22, 23 years old. It's not that.